Is an atom visible or not? IBM made a little movie 5 years ago, using atoms to build figures and letters on a substrate of a different element. The atoms were shoved around stop-action style by a scanning tunneling electron microscope to create the movement. Actually, they moved entire carbon monoxide molecules, but the visible bright dots are the oxygen atoms, according to reports. The surface was copper. The waves seen in the copper surface have been described by some sources as quantum probability waves. But that makes me wonder, what is the scope detecting inasmuch as probability is not a substance? Also, some recent books say flatly that quantum probability functions are just mathematical objects with no physical form. So are those just the shapes of copper atoms, perhaps being tossed around by the CO molecules? What do I know? Well, I know nothing. Like the German Sergeant Schultz in Hogan's Heroes, it would be nice if one of Quora's bona fide physicists would clarify this point. I am averse to the answer, yes and no, but it fits here. And I do understand that the following might further cloud this opening statement. The expected answer is something like, yes, but what's needed is an apparatus that sees one atom in close-up among the gazillion from a wisp of water vapor. But, instead, I offer this. Humans see atoms all the time, but they're obviously not individually distinguishable. It's like that backcountry saying, people can see the forest but not the trees. So can people really see, amongst the thousands swaying in the wind, that one tree with a mossy trunk? Yes and no. This less than insightful, and far short of clarifying, answer comes to you with the same train of thought as that of sitting out on the lawn and watching the grass grow. It depends on what you call be visible. All the nice images that are published are nothing more than computer-generated images based on some measurements. It is comparable to the action of a blind man who sees with his fingers. I know someone who plays chess by this method. While he is thinking, he is continually fingering at a special chessboard. From this he creates an image of the position in his mind. But you could suspend an atom inside a trap and shine bright light on it. If this light is bright enough, you would be able to detect the scattered light with your eye. According to my knowledge, about 3 photons are enough to be detected by the eye. An atom is not directly visible to the eye. An object has to emit huge numbers of photons to trigger a nerve to fire in your eye. A single atom is not going to do that. However, there are other ways of probing a single atom, e.g., firing electrons at it and measuring the electrons that bounce off in different directions. These measurements can be converted into pictures that you can see. What you see is actually the artifact that is produced from the data, not the atom. Of course, this is not that different to seeing an image in a TV news report. We say, I saw the plane crash, but, of course, we actually saw an artifact on a screen that was generated by a complex process that originated at the actual plane crash. In this sense, you see the atom. Individual atoms are not visible in the way we normally define visible. They are so much smaller than the wavelength of visible light that it do not resolve individual atoms. It is anyway possible to see them. All fluorescent light come from an atom where an electron has changed state. Under very special circumstances, it is possible to see a single photon flash from such a transition with your eyes, i.e. a single atom. Atoms do have observable effects on some of the things we can see. Also, minute particles of coal dust were darting about on the surface of some alcohol in his lab. Robert Brown described something curiously similar. He had his microscope trained on some pollen grains. Brown noticed that some of the grains released tiny particles, which would then move away from the pollen grain in a random jittery dance. They're typically made up of 3 main parts: protons, neutrons and electrons. Think of the protons and neutrons as together forming a sun, or nucleus, at the center of the system. The electrons orbit this nucleus, like planets.